Malcolm Harrington was not asleep. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow and deliberate, his frail body slumped in the leather chair of his private study. To anyone watching, he looked like a tired old man drifting into an afternoon nap. But beneath those closed eyelids, Malcolm was wide awake, watching, waiting, testing. He was 72 years old and worth more money than most people could count in a lifetime. Hotels, tech companies, real estate empires. He had everything except the one thing money couldn't buy: trust. Malcolm had learned the hard way that everyone had a price. His own children only called when they wanted something. Business partners smiled to his face and schemed behind his back. Even his staff had stolen from him over the years. Silver, cash, jewelry. He'd caught them all eventually. So today, he'd set another trap. On the small table beside his chair sat an envelope. Inside was $3,000 in crisp $100 bills, deliberately left open, money visibly spilling out. It looked careless, forgotten, like an old man's mistake, but it was calculated. Malcolm wanted to see what his newest maid would do when she thought no one was watching. The study door opened quietly. Diane stepped in, her footsteps hesitant. She was young, maybe late 20s, but exhaustion made her look older, dark circles under her eyes, hands rough from work. Malcolm knew her story from the background check. Widow. Husband died in a workplace accident 2 years ago, left her with nothing but debt and a young son. She worked 3 jobs now, barely keeping her head above water. But today was Saturday, and the schools were closed because of the storm outside. Rain hammered against the windows like bullets. Diane had begged the head housekeeper to let her bring her son to work, promising he'd be invisible, silent, no trouble at all. Behind her, smaller footsteps followed. Malcolm heard Diane's whispered panic. "Stay here, Marcus, right here in this corner. Do not move, do not touch anything, do not make a single sound. Mr. Harrington is sleeping in that chair. If you wake him up, Mommy loses her job. Do you understand? We'll have nowhere to go." "Yes, Mommy." The voice was small, scared, obedient. Malcolm knew what the boy looked like from the brief glimpse when they'd entered. Marcus, 7 years old, black child with gentle eyes and second-hand clothes that hung loose on his thin frame, worn sneakers with the sole peeling, a faded blue hoodie too thin for the cold. In his pocket, Malcolm had seen the outline of something small, a toy, probably. The kind of treasure poor kids clung to. "I have to clean the silver in the dining room," Diane whispered urgently. "I'll be back in 10 minutes. Please, baby, be good. I promise." The door clicked shut. Diane was gone. Now it was just Malcolm and the boy, and $3,000 sitting in plain sight. Malcolm kept his breathing steady, his body relaxed. He expected to hear movement almost immediately. Kids were curious. Poor kids, he assumed, were even more so. The boy would see the money. He'd know what it could buy: food, toys, maybe a new coat. Malcolm had seen it before. Good people, bad people, it didn't matter. Give them opportunity and need, and they'd take what wasn't theirs. But Marcus didn't move. 5 minutes passed in complete silence. The only sounds were the rain, the ticking clock, and the crackling fireplace. Malcolm's neck started to ache from holding still, but he didn't break character. Then he heard it. The soft rustle of fabric, small footsteps. The boy was standing up. Here we go, Malcolm thought. The test begins. The footsteps approached slowly, hesitant. Malcolm could feel the child's presence near his chair now, could sense him looking at the money. This was it, the moment of truth. Malcolm waited for the rustle of paper, for small hands grabbing the cash and shoving it into pockets. But it didn't come. Instead, Malcolm felt something that shocked him to his core. A small, cold hand gently touched his arm. Just for a second. Light as a feather. Then it withdrew. Malcolm heard a soft sigh. Then, the sound of a zipper. What is this kid doing? Malcolm's mind raced. Then he felt warmth settle over his legs. Fabric. Thin, slightly damp fabric. The boy had taken off his jacket and was draping it carefully over Malcolm's knees like a blanket. Small hands smoothed it out gently, tucking it around the old man's legs. "You're cold," Marcus whispered to the sleeping man. "Mommy says sick people need to stay warm." Malcolm's heart stuttered. This wasn't part of the script. The boy wasn't looking at the money. He was looking at him, seeing a cold old man who needed help. Then Malcolm heard movement on the table. His muscles tensed. Now comes the theft. But the envelope didn't disappear. Through barely cracked eyelids, Malcolm watched as Marcus carefully pushed the envelope back from the table's edge, where it had been dangerously close to falling. The boy moved it toward the center, near the lamp, making sure it was safe. "There," Marcus whispered. "Safe now." The child turned and walked back to his corner, sat down on the rug, and pulled his knees to his chest. He was shivering now. He'd given his only jacket to a stranger, to a rich man who had a closet full of coats upstairs. A man he thought was too cold. Malcolm lay there, frozen. Not from the cold, but from something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Shame. This child, who had nothing, had given him everything. His warmth, his kindness, his pure, unselfish heart. And Malcolm had been testing him like a rat in a maze. Before we continue, if stories that restore your faith in humanity move you, subscribe to Love is Kindness. We share moments that remind us what really matters. Now, let's see what happens when the truth comes out. Have you ever misjudged someone only to discover they had a heart of gold? Drop your story in the comments below. The door burst open. Diane rushed in, breathless, her face pale with terror. She'd finished the silver faster than expected, desperate to get back to her son. Her eyes immediately found Marcus sitting in the corner, shivering without his jacket. Then she saw where the jacket was, draped across the billionaire's legs. Oh God, oh no. Her hands flew to her mouth. She looked at the money still on the table, looked at her son's cheap, damp jacket on Malcolm Harrington's expensive suit pants. Her mind raced to the worst possible conclusion. Marcus had bothered him, touched him, maybe even tried to take the money and panicked. "Marcus," her voice came out as a strangled whisper. She ran to the boy, grabbed him by the arm, pulled him up roughly. "What did you do? Why is your coat on him? Did you touch him? Did you touch that money?" Marcus looked up at his mother with wide, confused eyes. "No, Mommy." He was shivering. "I just wanted to keep him warm." "We're ruined," Diane cried, tears already streaming down her face. "He's going to wake up. He's going to fire us. We have nowhere to go, Marcus. I told you not to move. I told you." She frantically started pulling the jacket off Malcolm's legs, her hands shaking so hard she nearly knocked over the lamp. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the sleeping man, even though she thought he couldn't hear. "I'm so sorry. Please don't wake up. Please." That's when Malcolm decided it was time. He let out a loud, theatrical groan and shifted in his chair. Diane froze like a deer in headlights. She clutched Marcus to her chest, backing toward the door, the wet jacket in her trembling hands. Malcolm opened his eyes slowly. He blinked a few times, then let his gaze fall on the terrified woman and the small boy pressed against her. He put on his best scowl, the one that had intimidated boardrooms full of executives. "What is all this noise?" Malcolm's voice came out harsh, gravelly. "Can a man not rest in his own home?" "I'm so sorry, Mr. Harrington," Diane stammered, her voice breaking. "I was just cleaning. This is my son. I had no choice. The schools were closed. We're leaving right now. Please, sir, don't fire me. I need this job. He won't bother you again." Malcolm's eyes moved to the boy, then to the damp jacket in Diane's hands. His expression darkened deliberately. "What is that?" "His jacket, sir." "I'm sorry. He put it on you. I don't know why." "I'll dry your chair immediately." Malcolm stood up slowly, leaning heavily on his cane, making himself look as imposing as possible. He pointed a shaking finger at the leather chair. "Look at this. Look what your boy did." Diane looked. There was a small, damp spot on the seat where Marcus's wet jacket had rested, her face drained of all color. "This chair," Malcolm continued, his voice cold, "is Italian leather, custom made. Do you know what water does to leather like this? I'll dry it, sir. I'll fix it. I promise." "You can't just dry it," Malcolm's voice rose. "It's ruined. This will cost $500 to repair professionally." The number hit Diane like a physical blow. $500. She didn't have $500. She barely had $50. "I don't have that much," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "But please, take it from my wages. I'll work for free. I'll work double shifts. Just please don't hurt my boy. Please don't fire me." This was Malcolm's second test. He watched her carefully, waiting. Would she turn on her son? Would she blame Marcus for their predicament? Would the pressure break their bond? But Diane didn't yell at Marcus. She pulled him closer, protecting him with her body. "It's my fault, sir, not his. Punish me." Malcolm's gaze shifted to Marcus. The boy was trembling, but not crying. His face was serious, thoughtful. Then Marcus did something Malcolm never expected. The child stepped forward, pulling away from his mother's protective grip. He reached into his pocket. "I don't have $500, Marcus said quietly, his small voice steady. "But I have this." He pulled his hand out and opened his palm. In the center sat a small toy car, red, battered, missing one wheel. The paint was chipped. It was clearly old and worthless to anyone else. But the way Marcus held it, like he was holding a piece of his heart, told Malcolm everything. "This is Lightning Bolt," Marcus explained, looking up at Malcolm with those gentle, serious eyes. "He's the fastest car in the whole world. He was my daddy's before he went to heaven. Mommy gave him to me after Daddy died. He's my best friend." Diane gasped. "Marcus, no. You don't have to. It's okay, Mommy." Marcus's voice was brave, but his hands shook slightly. He looked back at Malcolm. "You can have Lightning Bolt to pay for the chair. I know he's missing a wheel, but he still rolls. He's special. I don't want you to be mad at Mommy. It's my fault the chair got wet." Marcus stepped forward and placed the broken toy car on the expensive mahogany table, right next to the envelope of cash he'd never even looked at. "There. Is that enough, sir?" Malcolm stared at the toy. At this small, battered piece of plastic that meant absolutely nothing in monetary value, and absolutely everything in the currency that actually mattered. This child was offering his most precious possession, the last tangible connection to his dead father, to save his mother from anger, from consequences, from a mistake made out of pure kindness. Malcolm's throat tightened. His hands trembled. The stone wall around his heart, built over decades of betrayal and cynicism, cracked wide open. The pain was sharp, immediate. He realized in that moment that this 7-year-old boy who had nothing was infinitely richer than Malcolm would ever be. Because Malcolm, with all his millions, would never sacrifice his favorite thing for anyone. He'd spent his entire life taking, and here was a child who only knew how to give. The silence stretched out. The rain continued hammering the windows. Malcolm picked up the toy car with shaking hands. He turned it over, looking at the missing wheel, the chipped paint, the scratches from years of play. His voice came out as a whisper. "You would give me this? For a wet chair?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "Is it enough?" Malcolm closed his eyes. Tears threatened to spill. He thought of his own children, grown and wealthy, who'd never given him anything, who only took, who called only when they wanted money for a new car or a vacation house. And here was a child offering him a kingdom. Malcolm couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't play the villain. He couldn't continue the charade while holding this broken toy that represented everything pure in a world he'd convinced himself was rotten. He opened his eyes. They were wet. He didn't care that his maid saw. He didn't care about anything except the truth crushing his chest. "Yes, Marcus," Malcolm whispered, his voice breaking. "It's enough. It's more than enough." He sat back down heavily in his chair. The act was over. He felt exhausted, not from age, but from the weight of his own cruelty. Diane stood frozen by the door, clutching Marcus, confused by the change in his tone. "Sit down," Malcolm said quietly. "Both of you, please." Diane didn't move. She looked terrified, like this was some new trap. "I said sit down." Malcolm's voice cracked. Then, softer, "Please, just sit. Stop looking at me like I'm a monster." Though he knew in that moment, that's exactly what he'd become. Diane slowly sat on the edge of the sofa, pulling Marcus onto her lap protectively. Malcolm looked at the toy car in his trembling hands. He spun the remaining wheels with his thumb. "I have a confession to make," Malcolm said, not looking at them. "The chair isn't ruined. It's just water. It'll dry in an hour." Diane let out a breath she'd been holding. "Oh, thank God." "And," Malcolm continued, forcing himself to meet their eyes, "I wasn't asleep." The words hung in the air like smoke. Diane's eyes went wide. "You weren't?" "No." Malcolm shook his head slowly. "I was pretending. I left that money on the table on purpose. I wanted to see if you would steal it. I wanted to catch you in the act." Diane's face crumbled. Not with relief, with hurt, with betrayal. "You were testing us, like we're rats in a maze." "Yes." Malcolm's voice was barely audible. "I'm a bitter old man, Diane. I've been hurt so many times, betrayed so many times, that I started to believe everyone was a thief, everyone had a price. I thought if I gave people opportunity and need, they'd take what wasn't theirs." He pointed a shaking finger at Marcus, still clutching lightning bolt. "But him, your son, he didn't take the money. He covered me because he thought I was cold. He protected the envelope when it was about to fall. And then," Malcolm's voice broke completely, "and then he offered me his father's car, the only thing he has left of the man he loved." Malcolm wiped tears from his weathered cheeks. He didn't care anymore about dignity or pride. "I have all the money in the world, but I am poor. You have nothing, yet you raised a king." The room was silent except for the rain and Malcolm's shaky breathing. "The test is over," Malcolm said, standing up and walking to the fireplace. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "And you passed, both of you." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the thick envelope of cash. He walked over to Diane and held it out. "Take this." Diane shook her head vigorously, tears streaming down her face. "No, sir. I don't want your money. I just want to work. I want to earn my keep honestly." "Take it," Malcolm insisted, his voice firm but gentle. "It's not charity. It's a bonus. Payment for the lesson your son just taught me. A lesson I desperately needed to learn." Diane hesitated. She looked at the money, then at Marcus's worn-out shoes with the sole peeling away, at his thin jacket, still damp, now crumpled on the floor. "Please," Malcolm said softly, "buy the boy a warm coat. Buy him new shoes that don't have holes. Buy yourself a bed that doesn't hurt your back. Take it." Diane reached out with trembling hands and took the envelope. "Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet," Malcolm said. A small, genuine smile touched his lips for the first time in years. "I have a business proposition." "For Marcus." Marcus looked up, his eyes bright with curiosity. "For me?" "Yes." Malcolm held up lightning bolt. "I'm going to keep this. You gave it to me as payment, and a deal is a deal." Marcus's face fell slightly, but he nodded bravely. "Okay. A deal is a deal. But," Malcolm continued, crouching down with difficulty until he was eye level with the boy, "I can't keep a car with missing wheels. I need a mechanic, someone to help me fix things around here, someone to help me fix myself." He looked deep into Marcus's eyes. "How would you like to come here every day after school? You can sit in this library. You can do your homework. You can eat dinner with a lonely old man. And in exchange, I'll pay for your school, all of it, through college. I'll make sure you have everything you need to become whoever you want to be." Malcolm's voice softened even more. "Maybe you can teach this grumpy old man how to be kind again. Deal?" Marcus looked at his mother. Diane was crying openly now, covering her mouth with her hands, nodding through her tears. Marcus looked back at Malcolm and smiled. A gap-toothed, beautiful, innocent smile that lit up the entire room. "Deal," Marcus said. He held out his small hand. Malcolm Sterling, the billionaire who trusted no one, who believed the world was filled with thieves and liars, took that small hand in his weathered one and shook it. It was the first genuine connection he'd made in 20 years. If stories of redemption and unexpected grace move your soul, subscribe to Love is Kindness. We believe one act of compassion can change everything. 10 years later, Malcolm Harrington passed away peacefully in his sleep, in that same leather chair where the test had happened. Where a 7-year-old boy had covered him with a jacket and saved his soul, his will was read in that same library. His biological children were there, impatient, checking their watches, whispering about selling the mansion and splitting the fortune. They got their trust funds, the millions set aside at birth, but nothing more. The rest of the empire, the companies, the properties, the investments, Malcolm left to Marcus. His children were furious. "The maid's son?" they screamed. "He tricked our father." But the lawyer read Malcolm's letter aloud. "To my children and to the world, you measure wealth in gold and property, but I am paying a debt. 10 years ago, I was a spiritual beggar, cold, lonely, empty. A 7-year-old boy saw me shivering. He didn't see a billionaire. He saw a human being. He covered me with his jacket. He protected my money when he could have stolen it. But the true debt was paid when he gave me lightning bolt, his most prized possession, to save his mother from my anger. That day, he taught me that the poorest pocket can hold the richest heart. He gave me back my soul, so I leave him my fortune. It's a small trade, because what he gave me was priceless." Marcus, now 17, stood by the window holding a small velvet box. Inside was lightning bolt. Malcolm had kept it for 10 years, polished it, had a jeweler fix the missing wheel with solid gold. Marcus picked up the toy car, tears running down his face. He didn't care about the billions. He missed his friend. The grumpy old man who'd helped him with homework, who'd taught him about business and life, who'd become the grandfather he never had. Marcus walked to the leather chair and placed the toy car on the side table, right where it had been 10 years ago. "Safe now," he whispered. "Some investments can't be measured in dollars." Malcolm had learned that, and he'd spent his final years proving it, building schools, funding scholarships, helping families like Marcus's all over the city, because one cold, rainy Saturday, a child had taught him what real wealth looked like. Comment below where you're watching from. We'd love to know. And rate this story from 0 to 10 inches the comments box. Have you ever witnessed a simple act of kindness that changed everything? Share your story below. Sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest transformations. This is Love is Kindness, reminding you that what you give away is what you truly keep forever.